Well, good morning. If you all remember, I made these, and I want you to look at the soles of them. They are really bad. I am going to wash them. I got me 2 placemats, one for each foot, and if you look at them, they're 2 different naugahydes together. So I will have my front and my back. I don't know if I can get, oh, but yeah, I can get both of them out of one. Cool. I like that. I have another one for another one. I bought me some more pins, and I got the binding for this quilt. These are 3 yards. I don't know if I need 3 or how many I need, so I've got 6 yards altogether. I can always put them up somewhere else. And I got me another pair of scissors, because them that I've got here, they really don't want to cut the thread too good. I think these are more cosmetic scissors than they are for threads, because I really don't want to cut it. So I got me another pair of scissors, and hopefully they'll do a whole lot better than these. So I'm going to slide them down in here, put those there, and then I got me some beds. So let's see, can't use that. So hopefully I can redo it. Alright, I'm going to put these over here, so when I'm ready for that, I can do that. Now, Mama Cat, it's empty. Does it bother you? No, you're going to lay right there. Okay. You can lay right there.
To human. I mean, there's black ops organizations out there.
Oh, absolutely.
That are doing this stuff by the groves, and so it brings a whole new light to things that they are doing.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I remember reading it as a young man. 1993, I think that's when the first cloning of a sheep. I think I remember reading on a Time magazine for a school, some type of school project. John, it's that's how long ago. I'm pretty sure that's how long ago it was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if they were doing that back then, imagine what they're doing now. In fact, I think that a lot of the technology that we're just now seeing is stuff they've had a long time. I mean, the people that are in the know.
Absolutely. Agree. And with all that being said, you go into Jude 1:6, and we're talking about these nefarious things that's going upon the face of the earth. And what Jude 1:6 says, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he have reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. You got those angels, they left their first estate, and now they're wreaking havoc down here on the earth, on the face of the earth. And like the Bible says, as it was in the days of Noah, we have this reincursion. We have these giants that roam the earth. They're after the flood, their embodied spirits are wreaking havoc through literally family tree lines, historically ancestors and all that. And then it's becoming a Mod Podge of it's kind of getting a little wild when you go out into the public, and you can see some people they're suffering, and they need the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. They need the Almighty. They need the Holy Spirit, fire, Spirit to really get them out of these funk, the stuff that they're being inundated with. And I blame the adversary, I blame the devil, but then the minions, the fallen angels, they're doing a lot of damage. But that's why we do these programs. We're building the kingdom, and we're shouting that Jesus is King from the top of the rooftop. So Yeah, so Jude 1-6, that one hits home. So, speaking of, getting into a PSYOP, Brother John, do you care to play the first video here that we have to present?
Could the U.S.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get it playing for you here. Hold on one second. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, Brian, or not, but the people that are listening will be able to hear it. So I'm sure you've heard it before. That's why you sent it over here. So here we go.
Could the U.S. government really be concealing a top-secret UFO program? Several senators say the answer is yes. Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is spearheading legislation to establish a government-wide UAP records collection. Federal agencies now have to reveal everything they know about UAPs by October 20th. Schumer claims that the United States government has gathered a great deal of information about UAPs over many decades, but has refused to share it with the American people. He says that is wrong and additionally breeds mistrust. And then there is Senator Mike Rounds, a Republican from South Dakota who led the measure with Schumer. He said the proposed legislation is modeled after the John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Act. Another Republican Senator, Marco Rubio, told News Nation the latest string of UAP whistleblower claims should be taken seriously.
I find most of these people at some point, or maybe even currently, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government. So you do ask yourself, like, what incentive would so many people with that kind of qualification, these are serious people, have to come forward and make something up?
Yet the Pentagon has repeatedly denied that such a program is even real.
No verifiable evidence that any UAP sighting represented extraterrestrial activity, that the U.S. government or private industry has ever had access to extraterrestrial technology, or that any information was illegally or inappropriately withheld from Congress.
NASA has also released its own investigation, stating that at this point, there is no reason to conclude that existing UAP reports have an extraterrestrial source. Despite the Pentagon and NASA's findings, Schumer is expected to once again introduce legislation to further look into UAP programs in the coming months.
So with that being said, we have Chuck Schumer and we have Mr. Rubio, and Mr. Rubio has been trying to fight for transparency. And when I heard Chuck Schumer a while back fighting also, I thought that was really interesting. But the wild card here is this Mike Rounds, this Republican from South Dakota. I thought this was very interesting. And David and John, I think you both will think this is interesting. So like the video talked about, it's talking about this unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAPs, this Disclosure Act in 2023. But I want to point this out, that he really is pushing for transparency. He really wants to get this out to the American public, and Chuck Schumer from that video also said that too. I like that they're trying to fight for this transparency and disclosure. I really do appreciate that. But here's the thing that really got me, is it's all tied up, and you're going to hear it again. We talked about it earlier with JFK, but the JFK files, that whole thing with this John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992, which ordered all the files to relate to Kennedy's death to be released to National Archives in 2017. And that's what's holding up. And I thought that was really interesting, because at the beginning we talked about the twins and whatever was going on with the nefariousness of all that. The UFO records of collections with JFK, this act, is what's being tied up. And Mike Rounds is going to extensive research to try to push that. And I hope it goes through. But what's your all's take on that? I know David has a lot to say, and John, you do too on that. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, John.
I mean, yeah, I really don't know what to think about that. It's just more confusion, in my opinion. There's so much of this stuff out there from different sources, like the Pentagon saying these programs don't exist. But then I remember a Pentagon official coming out not too long ago saying that it was a part of a program. In fact, actually, David, me and you both know, well, I don't actually know if you know him or not, but I met a man who worked for the Pentagon, and he told me specifically, he said there's only two people that know this, and I'm one of them. And so I'm not going to give you his name and not going to tell you which one it is, but he said that when they were out on a base, a UFO landed on their base. Their commander went out, talked to them, walked away, the UFO flew off. And I'm not familiar with Mike Rounds enough about him to really comment on so much about what he's trying to do or if he's got good intentions, but I really don't know what to think about it, Brian. I apologize. Sometimes I have something enlightening to say, and sometimes I just don't. So what do you think, David?
Well, I think this is what they do. They'll withhold true information, and they'll interject false information, misinformation. And, you know, it always, whenever the subject comes up, always the motives are suspect because we can't, and here again, it's all related to the UAPs. So, you know, you just can't tell. And with me, with individuals, certainly with Mr. Schumer, I have just to be over the top skeptical that intentions are good. But this is a more part of the setup and the programming that'll go into the psyop of the ultimate end of what these people are trying to achieve.
100%. And thank you all for that. That's so it's going to be interesting. So we have this politicians and all these Republicans and Democrats going to battle to fix all this, right? So let's kind of shift gears and go a little bit further back. Let's go into a 1954 with Dwight D. Eisenhower. So we have this president, and I wanted to make a note of this. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of chatter all over the web about this. Supposedly, Mr. Eisenhower had mysteriously a gray alien an event, okay? Supposedly was trying, I heard that he backed off of this. The Treaty for Extraterrestrials, this was in 1954, and this Gray Decree is what they claimed it to be. And the story goes on that there's this group of aliens that landed in the Hollow Man Air Force Base in New Mexico, and they had a little chatter with the president about technology, culture, etc. But here's a little fun fact. You know, just like David Carrico says all the time on Midnight Ride, here's a little fun fact with no extra charge. Here's something I wanted to take a note here. CERN, the same year in 1954, CERN was founded. And I thought that was something to document. So how does this all correlated with the Gray Decree? Then all of a sudden we have an uptick and we have this facility that is still in use today, a Hadron Collider. And to me, that is something to put on the shelf for a later date. But it's very compelling. What do you guys think about CERN and this whole thing with New Mexico and this Gray Decree?
Well, I think there's definitely an interrelatedness. You know, many of these items that seem to be unrelated, they're anything but. They're all little pieces that ultimately just edge things toward their ultimate agenda.
And when you think about too where CERN sits and the Bible's description about where Satan's seat is, and you see the symbolism around CERN, the symbol itself is 666, the CERN symbol. They've got the God of Destruction out there in the front there that is in Hebrew Abaddon and the Greek Apollyon right out there in the open. And you know, Switzerland, we know the foundations of that, the Habsburg foundations. We know that they carry the cross we talked about earlier. Just the connections are just hard not to see. I mean, I don't know. At some point, I feel like it's like if you don't see those connections, then I don't know what to tell people. It's like, you know, putting a 4-piece puzzle in front of them, and you hope that they can put it together, but some people just can't.
Yeah. They don't have eyes to see or ears to hear, and for many of us, these things are so blatant. And after your eyes are open, so to speak, it's in your face everywhere. And it's very frustrating when people can't see it. But we're thankful to the Lord that more and more people all the time are seeing this. And partly the Midnight Ride's got a little bit to do with that with a few folks.
Yep. Absolutely, David. Absolutely. So the next one, we have another president, Jimmy Carter. Another president's a little later on. Fast forward into the 60s. So we have this mystery. There's this a lot of speculation, but there's this conversation that supposedly Jimmy Carter had. He was moved to tears. There was some information that he was briefed on, that he suggested that it was information that was unsettling, deeply unsettling, and possibly concerning the religious implications of extraterrestrial life. According to Dr. Michael Wolff, here we go, a former NASA researcher, Jimmy Carter had strong Christian beliefs, but when he was told that religion is a man-made, this is what they're saying, and probably unique to this planet, he broke down in tears, and he said it was worth noting that this account has not been confirmed by official sources, but it's something that Carter was told remained unknown. There's an unknown source about that. I wanted to document that. So it reminds me, Brother David and John, about Antarctica, when, all Buzz went down there and had heart palpitations to whatever he's seen down there in Antarctica. And it seems like it's a psyop. There's these psyops, little mini psyops, there's these huge psyops, and it's, if you start to put the puzzle together, the puzzle pieces, this political and the Jesuits, like Brother David said earlier, there's a connection that goes down this rabbit trail. But we all three would agree, we have this has fallen angel knowledge that are walking among us and dictating and moving everybody like Pinocchio on strings and making everybody in a this person's got it all wrong, this person's got it all right, and there's just all this discord. But one thing that we can depend on is Christ and the biblical narrative, and thank God for that. But Jimmy must have seen something or heard something to make the man tear up. Mm-hmm.
There's another very interesting story about Richard Nixon and Jackie Gleason, the famous comedian. And Gleason and Nixon were close friends. And Mr. Gleason maintained this story until he died, the truthfulness of it. And according to him, and I believe if I remember the story correctly, they were in Florida somewhere, and Mr. Nixon and Mr. Gleason were knocking back a few, as they were both known to like to do. And Mr. Gleason claims that Mr. Nixon took him to an Army base in a hangar and showed him one of these craft. Mm-hmm. Now, that's what Jackie Gleason claimed, and he maintained the truthfulness of that story up until his death. So there's many, many interesting stories surrounding the presidents of this type of stuff. So there it is, believe it or not, I don't know. There's a lot of this stuff out there.
And this story alone just, to me, tells the reason that we like to talk about this stuff, because if it made that man cry, obviously this information is enough to deceive people to the nth degree.
And that's what they want to do. They want to make all believers cry and say, well, my Bible's a lie, my faith's a lie. E.T. is really God, and this is a whole thing that ancient aliens and people like Mr. Carson, they're using these non-canonical texts and the Hag Hammadi codices to all over the whole predictive programming that aliens created the human race. It was aliens created us, not God. And that's the ultimate goal, to make us all cry, just like they made Jimmy Carter cry.
Cry like Jimmy.
Yeah, it's a huge deception, So, switching gears to more modern time here, we have the 2023 event. We had David Grush. David Grush was a former intelligence officer back in July, I think it was the 26th of 2023. He literally went and just told the world about UFO crash retrieval programs, reversal engineering, like Bob Lazar saying, and all these different secret space programs, etc., biological entities, non-human intelligent, all these different things that relate to biological materials, extraterrestrial origin, etc. And they say that he's credible. There's a big investigation. They scoffed at him. They shadow banned him, all these different things. They was trying to scrape him off the internet, all these different things. But apparently there's new information that's come out. They're saying that he has other whistleblowers, there's other men that's going to stand up and really back what he's saying. And I think that's very interesting as far as the public claim. They're claiming these controversial things about UAPs and all these different, as far as navigation, sailors, Air Force, even pilots are coming out and saying we've seen this anomaly in the sky, and they're reporting about it going to and fro and disappearing, etc. And he's saying there's potential security risk and all these different things that's concerning for the American people and for mankind. So, Mr. Grush, I think he might be telling the truth. I can't say he's not. We have to look at his credentials and what he is but I just thought it was interesting, guys. 2023, after all the several years of the nonsense that they literally inundated us with, I thought it was really intriguing in 2023. They just threw this bombshell out with all this information dumped. What do you guys say about Mr. David Grush?
What do you think, David?
Well, I believe that what we're looking at here, and there's the argument, well, are we looking at nuts and bolts spacecraft? Are we looking at just something that's spiritual and interdimensional? And I say it's not A or B, it's both A and B, that we've got nuts and bolts spacecraft that are real, that sometimes crash, and that the entities flying these are the product of the alien abduction, hybridation of the human race, that they do have interdimensional telepathic abilities and what we would refer to, described in the Bible as occult powers. And I think that there have been many encounters there. It just keeps escalating. The reports of seeing these craft and of the actual crashes and injuries from them is just escalating to where we're to the point now where everybody is they're looking for answers on it. And we just want to be here and get our hat in the ring. Hey, let's look in the Bible. Let's look at the Bible, because now's our time to stand up and point people to the Word of God, because there's going to be some big stuff coming with this. There's going to be some big stuff coming. This is ground zero of the plot for the total enslavement and elimination of the human race.
And one thing, too, that you can't 100% rule out with the guys like this intelligence officer, is the connection that they may have to Satanism, etc., or even mind control, because we've pointed out in some of the episodes that we've done concerning, well, David, you just did one recently about a secret society from Hollywood, and the main people who were artists or people who were in the forefront were intelligence families, and that shows me that there's a major mind control op going on within those communities. So it's hard to even trust anything like this guy would say. He may fully believe it. He may fully believe everything he's saying, but there may be just minor twists to the story based off some mind control program, which is not hard to rule. It's hard to rule that out too.
Yeah, we showed the origin of predictive programming in that one Midnight Ride. It was in, I think, the year early 70s with the Science Fiction's Writers Club in L.A., with people giving presentations like Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, Willie Ley, Willie Ley of the Germans, the German guy, and back there, Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, and all of the people that have laid in all science fiction movies. You could get a half a dozen scenarios and they all fit into one of them. All of these, the foundations were laid back in this little group down in LA. And where again, well, lo and behold, here we have Mr. Parsons, whose association with Crowley and Paperclip are well known. And it all comes back to there, and see, all of these things, they're related. They're related. And there you go.
So we've talked about John when he said about the Pentagon and everything about the UFO landing down, and we talked about UFOs through this whole broadcast. Here's a witness. Here's a mishap involving a UFO, and guess what? It's in Siberia. There was a UFO involvement with military personnel back in March of 27th, 1993. And it reads, this is very interesting. It's to do with, U.S. intelligence obtained a 250-page file on attack by a UFO on a military unit in Siberia. Let's read what it has to say. According to the materials in the report, a low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared from above a military unit that was conducting a routine training maneuver. For unknown reasons, somebody unexpectedly launched a surface-to-air missile and hit the UFO. So, let's pause there for a minute. If you remember from the 1947 San Diego, California, the Flying Roll, it said that if it was hit, it wouldn't be hit. It would vibrate into the dense matter. It would not have, our weaponry would not have no effect on it. So I want to document that. But it goes on here. It says that, so that for unknown reasons, somebody shot off an air missile. So it fell to the earth not far away, and here we go. And 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes emerged from it. It is stated in the testimonies by the 2 soldiers who remained alive that after freeing themselves, that's hard to read, it's no document. The aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a special spheric shape. That object began to buzz and hiss. It kind of makes you think of the Zimazoos, Brother David and John. And so it sharply became brighter, like a bright white. In a few seconds, the spheres grew much bigger and exploded by flaring up with an extreme bright light. In that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomenon turned into stone poles. You can't make this stuff up. Only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade. So just think about this, the shade, whatever they're referring to. I guess they stayed behind something that had metal to a component or something at the military base, and were less exposed to this luminous explosion survived. As far as the report goes on, and say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers, petrified in quote, were transferred to a secret scientific research institution near Moscow. The specialist assumed that the source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms. Having transferred it, this is what they found. This is the findings. Transformed it into a substance whose molecule composition is no different from that of limestone. And with that being said, they say correspond. So this is the 3-letter agency goes on and says it corresponds to reality. This is extremely menacing case, and the aliens possess such weaponry and technology that go beyond all the assumptions of humanity. And they go on and say they can't stand up for themselves. They don't know what to do. This is a report from Siberia. So what we have here, we have the limestone connection, we have the stone poles, and I can, from just at a standpoint of reading this, the first thing I think of is a Sodom and Gomorrah connection. We have there's something here that wiped out a military base and turned these men into petrified soldiers. For the 2 men that survived it, that one would be a story to tell your grandkids, right, later on. So I can only imagine what, and it's interesting in Siberia, and they have all the stuff going on over that part of the country anyways. I really wonder what's going on. If there's something going on with all this UAP and